Welcome back to Desert Island Slabs, the hobby podcast where we delve a little bit deeper into the psyche of collecting. I take my favourite collectors, the collectors that have inspired me, the collectors that may well have inspired you. Some you may know, some you may not. But one thing they do have in common is that I love them all. My guest this month is Andreas Kazamias. He is from Cyprus, living in England for the last 7 years, in London for the last 4, and he's working in management consulting. He has an incredible, predominantly ticket collection, and he's a collector that when I decided I wanted to do Desert Island Slabs, and I'm not just saying this, he was one of the first ones that I actually messaged about coming on Desert Island Slabs. We had to work out, because I believe a lot of his collection is in Cyprus. So when he was back in Cyprus, so we're filming this from Cyprus, and he agreed to come on, and he had always agreed to come on actually over a year ago. So I'm so grateful to have him on the podcast and making his podcast debut anywhere. Andreas, how are you doing?
Hi, James. Thanks a lot for inviting me on this podcast. I'm well. Thank you for your kind words. That was a very, let's say, nice introduction. I'm really in the mood to talk about tickets, some of my collection, and the 8 items that I've selected after, let's say, thinking about what sentimentally are my, let's say, my best things, and what emotions they tend to give me after looking at them, let's say. But I think I've made a good selection of things to talk about, and I'm really interested in diving into our conversation.
I agree. I think your list is absolutely fantastic, Andreas. And it's interesting because there was some of the items I would have expected, having known your collecting habits for quite some time. But there's some I'm surprised by. So it'll be really interesting to discuss the ones I was expecting, but then also the ones that I wasn't expecting quite so much. And for the first item, I guess this would be one of the ones that I wasn't expecting. And I'm going to put the ball in your court to introduce it.
Yep. So that's the item. This is a signed ball by a large ball. Have a look. And it's signed by many players, whether that's Djokovic, let's see, Murray. Here's Murray. You have, for our American friends, Isner here.
Yeah, Johnny.
Who?
John
Which
Isner.
one are you? John Isner.
Yeah.
The Bryan brothers. And my favorite, Rafael Nadal here.
Oh yeah.
I'm only sad about missing Roger Federer, but I vouch, let's say, to manage to get his signature on that ball at any cost, kind of down the line someday, somehow. But yeah, this ball was actually I attended the Roma Open in 2009 and 2010, and the Monte Carlo Masters in 2011. I was 12, 13, and 14 years old back then. My mother took me to the tournaments. First of all, I used to play tennis competitively at the national level in Cyprus when I was younger, and my mother kind of took me to these events. For the first time, I got to see some great players playing. And although I didn't start getting signatures and autographs out of these players immediately. I realized how easy it is to get signatures at these events, especially if you are a child. And 2 days before the end of the first event, the Roma Open 2009, I got my mother to get me one of those balls from the tournament store. And my first signature was Zverev, but not the Zverev that we mostly know now. It's his brother. This is Misha Zverev. He obviously, to be a professional tennis player, you have to be good, but he was never to the level of his brother Sasha Zverev, who is now doing well. And the second signature was Djokovic, and those were the only 2 signatures I managed to get on my first trip. And I missed Nadal on the first try, and I was crying a lot because he was my favorite player, and my, let's say, decision making in getting his autograph was gone wrong, and I missed him, and I was so sad because I didn't know if I was coming back next year or not. I thought that was my only chance. And thankfully, the next time I came next year, he was the first guy I got to sign that ball. So, yeah, this ball has tremendous sentimental value to me. It's not for sale. It will never be for sale because it brings so many good memories and yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite items.
Yeah, you mentioned Nadal as your favorite player, Andreas. Were you always sort of team Nadal in the Federer Nadal thing?
Yeah, look at my background. I still have this is a banner, let's say, of Nadal. I used to have, I don't know, since maybe 10 years old, and I have another couple of posters since that age. I'm 26 now, and I still have them in my room, let's say, that I used to live in when I was younger. And yeah, I was always a Nadal fan over Federer and over Djokovic. Although I must say that I strongly believe that Djokovic is the GOAT.
Really,
it pains my heart to say that.
With tennis, I really like tennis, but I don't follow it particularly religiously. I've always, I mean, Premier League takes up too much time, and with my job and everything, it's quite difficult to follow all of the sort of like the Masters, 1,000 tournaments and things, and all the WTA events. But
yeah,
and like you say, probably Djokovic, and a lot of people do think he is the GOAT, but for some reason, Federer and Nadal, despite Djokovic being possibly or probably the greatest player of all time, Federer and Nadal are the ones that have just, maybe it was all that sort of 2007 and then especially obviously the 2008 final, but they're the ones that everyone just still, like, they capture the imagination, those two, in some way.
No, you're right. I mean, first of all, I think maybe, I don't know if Djokovic, let's say, Djokovic was always arrogant. He was always a bit more in the mood, like to beat everybody. Federer and Nadal appeared to be more friendly and more lovable, let's say. And because everybody had, let's say, pledged their allegiance to either Nadal or Federer, when they saw Djokovic coming in and wanting to get the reins out of these two players, I think that's when many people didn't want that to happen. And until Djokovic got that Grand Slam record from Nadal, I was getting so annoyed when Djokovic would keep winning and keep winning. I really didn't want that to happen, but now after he has done it, I'm so relieved. And I don't care anymore if he wins more Grand Slams because he got it over with. And he made us sad already. So yeah.
No, it's exactly like you say, in the sense that I remember in 2019 for the semi-final of Wimbledon, and obviously I think Federer and Nadal played in the 2017 Australian Open final and had a really good match, and the hype for that one. But then they met on that Friday, not a Friday afternoon, evening, Wimbledon, obviously for the rematch of 2008, and the hype in this country for that, it was crazy, because it was like, it was 2019. This is like nostalgia, but it's the present day. And it was just a really incredible like feeling in the country for that afternoon, which is a shame in some ways for Djokovic. I mean, I don't think he's that bothered, because the final that year was an incredible match between Federer and Djokovic. But still, in the mind, it's the Federer Nadal obsessive. Everyone wants Federer Nadal. Everyone wants Federer Nadal. It's just a weird. They're just in everyone's head and everyone's brain. And I was also Team Nadal as well. And I think probably the origins of that was he was probably initially a bit of the underdog in the 2006, well, not on clay, obviously, but so I think that was probably where it came. But then after that 2008 final, I was like, I cannot criticize Federer. Like, if you're going to lose a match, lose it like that, playing just, and those incredibly just like clutch moments, just playing in that way, and to steel yourself. And I find that so inspirational when players can just manage that stress and just execute so well in this ridiculously high pressure environment. Just incredible. And the item is great. I mean, and the fact that you've personally got all those as well, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's as you say, that final is one classic final that I think is gonna be talked for many more years. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Federer was 40-15 up, and he had too much points to finish the game. And Djokovic did what Djokovic does. He comes right back at you and kills you when you think that you are well in front. And yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the best sportsmen in the history of sports, not just tennis. And he has also that personality. And even though I don't want to get into politics or into beliefs, but I like that he also stands firm on what he believes is right, and that he has that kind of personality. Whatever you believe of if it's true or if it's right or not, I like that he has that strong personality that, and he doesn't care if you like him or not. I like that approach. Which Federer is a totally different thing. Everybody likes him, although he's not trying to be liked. It's just him, Nadal and Federer. But yeah, I mean, all three of them were and are amazing.
Yeah, they're just three incredible sportsmen. And yeah, I think bless Andy Murray was included in that conversation for a bit of time up until 2013. Not in the GOAT debate, but it was the big four. But now I don't think anyone can say a big four with a straight face. I don't think anyone can say the big four with a straight face.
If they want to bring Andy Murray in the big four conversation, I want to put Wawrinka in that conversation as well.
Exactly. Wawrinka's almost completed a career Grand Slam. It's only Wimbledon he hasn't done, I think.
Indeed.
So,
yes, which it's too difficult to do. Well, he managed to do that Roland Garros against Djokovic, who was at the time, he didn't have one. Djokovic didn't have Roland Garros.
Yeah.
When he lost to Wawrinka, and he managed to get that, I think, in the next year or so. But it was Wawrinka had a couple or three of super hot years that he played some great tennis. And if Murray is in that conversation, Wawrinka, I think, should be included as well.
Absolutely, but I don't think Murray is in that conversation anymore. Even in the British press, I
Yeah,
don't think
no, me neither.
anyone. It was a thing, obviously, and Murray was an incredible player. I mean, he won 3 Grand Slams and 2 Wimbledons, and in
Yeah,
this country, as you
to
probably
Wimbledon
know,
and a couple of Olympics
yeah,
as well.
exactly. And yeah, in this country, people behave like Wimbledon's the only Grand Slam, as you probably got used to, and it's the only thing that matters in tennis. So Murray winning 2 of them is quite impressive. But yeah, those 3 just incredibly great, just players and sports people. And like you say, I think I don't warm to Djokovic as much, but I think that's obviously quite a common sentiment. But the other 2, Federer and Nadal, just you can't not like them, and they're obviously very media trained. But I do think it comes from a point of authenticity, from a place of authenticity as well with them. Just yeah, but all of them are just fantastic. Yeah, so that was a great item, and a tennis ball, which maybe we wouldn't have expected necessarily on the first item. But then we are going to go back to what I consider as a specialty for you, or maybe your main love, a ticket. We're going to go onto that course. Is that right?
Yeah. What's the item? I forgot.
So the second item. So the big day for a nation that weren't expected to do very well.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. So there was a European tournament of football in 2004, and someone won that weren't expected to. So should we have a chat about your next item?
Sure. This is a ticket to the final of the Euro 2004 between Portugal and Greece. This ticket also has the flags on, which isn't as common for the, let's say, knockout stages of the European and World Cup competitions, because many tickets are printed before the teams qualify for the tournament, qualify to the knockout stages. And so sometimes tickets are written like winner of Group B against winner of Group, second runner-up of Group D, for example. But this ticket means that it was printed after the teams were, let's say, after they qualified for the final. And this ticket is super, let's say, important, let's say, to me, because of the achievement that Greece did, being the underdog. And as a Greek Cypriot that I am, it's one of the best moments in the country's and in the nation's history, and it's still cherished until this day, with basically the team of 2004 being, let's say, goated by every Greek around the world for their achievement of basically coming out of nowhere and winning a tournament that many people, all the people basically, not even Greeks, thought it's possible.
With that tournament, because you were probably around 9, about 7 or 8, were you? Do you remember much of the tournament going on, Euro 2004? What do you remember of it personally?
Not at all. Not at all. I didn't even watch football back then. I remember during the final. I was probably 6 years old back then. And basically, I remember during the final, I was in this room with my older cousin, who isn't watching football either. And I remember the screams for downstairs when my family was watching the game. When Greece scored the goal, Angelos Charisteas was the scorer of the only goal in the final. I have this memory in my mind. For some reason, and but yeah, of course I got to rewatch the games and the highlights so many times since then. After I started watching football and going to games. But yeah, this was a memory that I remember watching live at the time. But it was a super big deal back in the day in Greece. And those moments are one of the, let's say, along with, basically during that time in Greece, it was, let's say, the golden age of modern era in Greece. It was Euro in 2004 when they won it. It was the Olympics that they held in 2004 again. It was the Eurovision that they won in 2005. But everything came crashing down after 2008, because although everything looked fine and everything looked good, and people were having a great time and they thought that they were doing well, behind the scenes everything was wrong. Everything was built on not solid grounds, and everything came crashing after 2008. So that those a couple 3 years in Greece were super good. And yeah, I mean, the Euro 2004, I think it was the pinnacle of that golden age in Greece.
Yeah, it was a very interesting tournament. I mean, because I the reason I ask if you remember anything, because I wonder when people in Greece or Cyprus started believing that they were going to win, because obviously they, on the opening day, they beat Portugal 2-1, but that was, I remember watching that game and it was thought as nothing more than a bit of a quirk, really. Oh, look, Greece beat Portugal, the hosts, on the day, and then they drew with Spain, I think, and then lost against Russia, and then the knockouts they like just beat France and then Czech Republic, and they kept going. They just exactly, France in the quarterfinals.
Let's say France was also the reigning European champions from 2000 Euro 2000. With some great names, Henry, Zidane, and all these names, but a super strong header by Haristeas again, the scorer of the goal in the final, assisted by Zagorakis, who turned out to be the player of the tournament, and he was a captain of Greece back then. Was enough to have Greece through to the next round, and they faced I think it was Czech Republic, right?
Czech,
who back in the day were a super strong team.
I think Czech Republic were, from my memory of the tournament, I think they were actually the best team in the Euro. Well, Greece obviously won it, so they're obviously the best team, but Czech Republic were actually, I think, the best team in that tournament in Euro 2004. The way they were playing.
They were the dark horses, I think, of the tournament.
Yeah. And they were really great. And it's just Greece. They were criticised a bit for their style of football. But then again, it's like, well, what are you going to do? You're just going to roll over and lose and try and pass it around, or are you going to be a bit rough and prioritise the set pieces? That's how you play if you're not expected to be able to go toe to toe. And it was just an incredible, amazing what they did, amazing what Reinhagel did with Greece, and just the way they played. And like you say, players like Zagorakis, who were like, he was at Leicester and didn't really do very much, and just Traianos Delis, who scored against Czech Republic, just a Roma bench player, basically. Just all these players just like united and won a major tournament. And it's if the Leicester thing hadn't have happened, I would say it's the greatest upset in football. But it's up there.
It's definitely one of the biggest upsets in. Yeah, I mean, that's the power of tournaments, right? I mean, I tend to see things with let's say probability base, and it's much easier to win a tournament than winning a league. It's much easier to win to get away with 7 games than getting away with 38 games, for example, and that's why having, let's say, City losing the league, for example, when they are the front runners, it's much more difficult than losing the Champions League, which if they are off for a couple of nights, maybe now against Real Madrid, who knows? They might be out. But in a 38-game run, it's much more difficult. So, yeah, maybe Leicester was even more difficult. But also, let's not stop reminding ourselves that no other competitor of Leicester was at the high back then, right?
Yeah,
not Arsenal, not Tottenham, and definitely not Man City. So, of course, it's a miracle what they did, but the circumstances for that to happen were also very set for them to go and do it, and
I agree.
They basically did that on having that momentum, and they kept doing that. And they passed the finishing line, and good for them. I mean, that was a brilliant moment as well. But yeah, I mean, Greece, what there is more to say? As you said, their style of play was defensive, but you mentioned also Tore Hagel, who was the trainer of Greece back then, a German who, let's not forget, did brilliant things before joining Greece and basically setting the tone and the culture for the team to win the 2004 tournament. Because let's not forget that Otto Hagel, before joining Greece, he won the league with Kaiserslautern in Germany, the second division, to get them promoted to the first division. And immediately next year, he won the Bundesliga with Kaiserslautern before joining Werder Bremen and also winning the league once with them as well. So he had a proven track record as well of winning things. And I think he should also get a shout because he is one of, let's say, the maybe best German managers to do it, I think, ever, which is not talked about because he's not that known, unlike other managers in German history.
No, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what they did, Greece. It's insane to beat Portugal twice as well, the host nation. It's crazy, really. Yeah, it's crazy what they did, and Karisteas as well, who was a decent striker. He was in Germany as well, but he finished 11th in the Ballon d'Or that year as well. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, that's what people don't know, that many players had their moments in clubs as well. Like Karisteas won the Bundesliga with Werder Bremen. He played for Ajax and Feyenoord, winning leagues with Ajax. He had a decent career as well, played for some decent teams and other players. But yes, the majority of the players, they were playing for Greece's Super League. Back in the day, it wasn't so common for the Greeks to go abroad and play that often in other big European leagues.
Yeah, I think Dabizas as well, Newcastle.
Yeah, Dabizas was in Newcastle. There were a couple others. Stelios Giannakopoulos, who played for Bolton, and I think he's one of their legends now. There are the occasion of players that they played abroad.
Karagounis was a good player as well.
Karagounis, definitely, he scored the first goal for Greece against Portugal, and he played for some very good teams. He played for at the end of his career, he played for Fulham, and although he was 37 years old, I think he was one of their best players.
Yeah.
And he was voted, I think, their best transfer, which is weird for a 37-year-old coming in to be voted the best transfer that they did. But he played for Inter Milan, he played for Benfica, and definitely for Panathinaikos. And he's definitely one of the best Greek players ever to do it.
Yeah, it's an amazing tournament. And another amazing tournament was the 1986 World Cup, which this next item and this next guy was the star of that. But we're not going to talk about the 1986 World Cup directly, at least. So should we have a chat about your next item, which is a real powerful item, I think.
Yeah, so the next item is, let's say, my best ticket. It's one that I have for more than 3 years now. This is Diego Maradona's international Argentina debut, let's say. It was against Hungary in 1977 when a 16-year-old Diego Maradona would feature for the first time in the blue colors of Argentina. It was a friendly game, which it didn't mean much because he wasn't even selected for the 1978 World Cup, which happened in Argentina, and where Argentina with Kempes won. But it was a super important moment for down the line when he carried the team to so many great achievements. And as you mentioned, of course, the 1986 World Cup. And yeah, this item is a full ticket, although it's a proof. There are no seating arrangement for this ticket, but it's the only full proof or not in the database of PSA at least. And it's a super rare item, even as a stub. But yeah, it's one ticket that I think is one of the at least nicest for Maradona, and Maradona being one of the best players to ever do it, and his connection to Argentina and what he means for the Argentinian people, for the Neapolitan people in Italy, and for football fans in general, especially the romantic football fans. What Maradona means and embodies, I think, is huge.
Yeah, well, he's one of the greatest footballers of all time, and a lot of people say he is the greatest footballer of all time, with full awareness that men called Pele and Lionel Messi exist. And people still say that, in spite of that, Maradona's the best player. And it's difficult to say. It's difficult maybe for me and for you to say, because we didn't see Maradona play, but he is one of the best players of all time ever to do it, like you say. And to have not all of collecting's about rarity and things like that, but for some reason, as collectors, we do almost naturally tend to gravitate towards rare things. It's like magpies to a shiny piece of paper. We just cannot help it. We just like, oh, that's rare. We have to, and like you say, a stub of the Hungary match is incredibly rare. Is something that a lot of collectors covet. A full is like it's scarcely believable. Where did you get it from? How did you get it? Know what it was? What happened there?
So, first of all, it was, I remember I was doing my master's back then, and I remember I was in a group project, and we were at the university grounds. We were in a room, and for some reason it hit me. Let's search for the Maradona debut. I don't know why. That's how a ticket collector thinks. It's out of nowhere, a random thought comes in your mind, and you're like, okay, let's search for it right now.
So true.
Right now, you are not waiting to go home. You're not waiting to finish lunch or whatever. You're just searching it at that specific moment in time, and that's what I did. Out of nowhere, I saw there was one that had just come up for auction, and I was like, okay, let's wait. I'm not gonna talk to the seller to reach a deal. I'm gonna wait patiently for the auction to end. and I will put my max bid in, and hopefully I will win it. So I was waiting patiently for a couple of days. I had put in a bid just so that I would know that nobody would mess with it. Let's say the seller of the ticket to get a deal behind the scenes, let's say. And I would keep refreshing and checking if anybody else would have placed a bid or whatever. And to my, let's say, disbelief, I saw that the seller basically removed the auction a couple, 3-4 days after he initially put it up. And I was so furious at the time because 3 years ago, I still believe that this was a super big ticket to have. And 3 years ago, I didn't have many big tickets to show or to think that my collection is good and big and important, let's say. And what I did was basically message the seller to see what was going on. And he told me that he accepted an offer for an X amount, let's say, for X amount behind the scenes, and he took down the listing. And I was so furious because I hate behind the scenes listings, to be honest. Behind the scenes
it's challenging
deals. It's super challenging and frustrating for somebody that tries to play by the rules and who wants to, let's say, do things the way they're set up to be done, right? The seller placed the item on eBay to be sold as an auction, and the highest bidder would win. And what happens that because I thought that I was I got done by the other seller, I basically told the seller, look, I had a bid. How much did he offer to you? Cancel it and I will offer you more. If the other guy was playing dirty, I was willing to play dirty as well at that point. And what the seller did was basically he told me that he sold it for X amount, and I told him, okay, look, I will pay you 2X to be worthwhile to you to basically cancel the deal that the other guy did. And he agreed, and he sent me the ticket. And yeah, that's the, let's say, the serial that took place for me to get hold of this ticket. And I do not endorse or do not support behind the scenes deals, because I was on the wrong side of it for many times, being the one that was basically the one that lost out on many tickets because of this. But on this occasion, I was lucky enough not to be the one that got done, because I acted fast, and I think I was in the right to get it basically done with the seller. So yeah, and I got the ticket, and some months later I sent it to PSA, which they graded, authenticated, and gave it a PSA 4. And until now, it's the only full in the PSA pop report, and the highest graded by far. I have to mention again that it's a proof, but still it's the highest graded and only full in the pop report.
It's an amazing grade, and I love the Adidas on the back as well. Actually, it's such a nice. It just looks so good. It looks so good, and obviously the Argentinian colours match it as well. Mm-hmm. A word about the slightly nefarious things with collecting, because we're not afraid to go into things on Desert Island Slabs when it's appropriate. It's challenging, this sort of, like you say, sort of shady backdoor deals, and it is challenging because, and I think as well, without sounding pious or self-righteous, what I've always thought or considered with these types of things is, one, what I think you did in this case was fine, and I will qualify it, because you had already shown interest in the item, and then all what you're doing is just responding. So what can you do? But on the other side, or not the other side, but just talking to develop the point further, no ticket. I don't, because I collect so many tickets. There's my mind, like you say, and actually it goes back to what you said earlier. Like when I think of a ticket, I obsessively have to find that ticket straight away. Go on eBay or go on Google, type in, how can I find this? What does it look like? What does it look like? But because my mind is just basically this scattergun synaptic connection thing where I'm basically continually searching for tickets in my mind to look for, I don't care enough about any individual ticket to compromise. Again, not being not virtue signaling or anything. It's just I don't care enough about anything to compromise. Because often what I tend to find as well with these things is it's often people that just want to sell that on and engage in a bit of arbitrage that do that sort of thing. Just from my personal experience, that's purely anecdotal, but that's just from what I tend to see. And I'm like, you know what? Have it. Just have it. I don't care enough. I'll go and look for a different ticket. But I don't know how you feel.
Well, if I'm well, well enough as well that many tickets will come up once in even years, right? It's not like maybe cards where you most likely will see a card again sooner or later. Some tickets might not show up for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You don't know how often a ticket will show up. And when you've been waiting patiently for a ticket to come up, you've done your due diligence, you're waiting to play by the rules who are set by the seller. And especially, for example, if you listed on eBay, eBay sets the rules, right? And if you are willing to adhere to those rules and play by those rules, and you lose, maybe you put in a bid, the other bidder puts a higher bid, you lose, you're okay with it. If somebody puts in a bid, if somebody takes it down and you had already bid on, etc., and you lose because of some shady stuff, that's when I'm angry for at least a couple or 3 days. I'm so pissed off about that, right?
That's a long time.
I'm so pissed off.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
3 days,
I cannot take it. No, yeah, I cannot take
3
it.
days.
I'm getting so pissed off. Yeah, it's something that keeps bugging me in my head for a couple or 3 days, and then I forget it. But that's why I try to do most of the times when I see a listing that comes up, I will most likely put in a bid, just so I basically avoid people reaching out to the seller, offering them to take it down. Most of the times that's working. And what I recently started doing is that I even sometimes put a bid after another guy puts in a bid, because I've seen occasions where the guy who puts in a bid first still negotiates with the seller to take his bid down and get a deal behind the scenes. So a way I decided to approach things sometimes is, let's put another bid in to set another barrier of basically to this behavior, let's say. What to say more?
It can turn into a bit of a game of chess sometimes, these types of things. And I stay out of it. I don't really, what I tend to do, honestly, I'm trying to think of a time where I've ever messaged anyone with an eBay sale listing that I've said, oh, would you consider taking it down early for a bit? I just don't. I just do what you do. I put a bid on as a protecting bid, basically. Or if there's a buy it now that I'm happy with, I'll buy it now. I won't worry too much. I won't try and well, that's an evolved viewpoint. Sometimes you try and be clever and try and save like £10, and then you end up losing it, which is always an awful thing to do. But we all learn from that. But
definitely a game of learning and applying it the next time.
Yeah, I'm sorry that it upsets you for 3 days though. That's a long time to be upset for.
Yeah. No, definitely, and it gets more, let's say, the feeling gets stronger and more bold if it's something I care more about. There are tickets that you care less, and there are tickets that you care more about them. So if this happens to something that I care more about, then the days tend to increase or decrease accordingly.
So is your day ruined? How are you with your girlfriend and things? Can she tolerate being around you? Like what? How does it work? What's Andreas upset?
No,
what does that
look
like?
She understands. She understands. I tend to talk to her about it just to get it out of my head, and she doesn't give much of a. She doesn't make a deal out of it, She knows that I will be pissed, not with her, but with this situation, and she tries to console me at times. Yeah, this happens.
Yeah, but and it's not. I think the silver lining on the positive side is it shows you how passionate you are about this, and it shows you just how much I wanted to get you on, because it's so clear how much it matters to you. It matters to me as well. It matters to us. It's just so ingrained in us, it's like it's not a thing. It's like an extension of ourselves, which is what these items are as well. And it's just you just feel it. You just, because it's not an item, it's you, and yeah, it's well, I hope you manage to not get up to have anything that makes you upset for at least a few months at least.
It's been going well recently.
And there's also, but the other side of a hobby, as well as it's linked actually. The deep diving element means that sometimes you can sort of research things and then stumble across things yourself that no one seems to know about. And I think with your next item, that said, because you actually stumbled upon a rookie for a Ballon d'Or winner that nobody seemed to know about. Is that right? Should we have a chat about your next item?
Yeah. So this is the item. This is Karim Benzema's 2006-7 Panini McDonald's from the set called Champions du Foot Francais. And this was basically a set that was given with Happy Meals, in Happy Meals at that time at McDonald's in France. And basically, why this is important to me? It's important to me because accidentally, and I have to specify that, I was the first one to find out about this Karim Benzema rookie when I was looking for something on eBay, and I stumbled across an auction with this sticker. And it wasn't even specifying the set it was from. But I realized the shirt that Leon was wearing at the time, and I tried to do some digging around that. I tried to see other players from the set and what teams they played for at the time, to see if the year corresponds with his other rookie, which is from the Panini Foot of the same year, which is far more common than that. And once I got that sticker, I basically still wasn't 100% sure whether that's a rookie or not. And what I did is that because I had in mind that it might be a rookie, I posted that in the Soccer Study Discord at the time. asking about any information that people may have and whether it's definitely a rookie or not. And that's when people started digging more about this set and finding out that it is indeed a rookie of Benzema. And yeah, I mean, is it something that would never sell? No, but it's not something I would let go that easily, because I feel like it's my contribution to the hobby. Accidentally, I have to mention that again. But still, I mean, there are some collections that were enriched by this sticker when they found one down the line after I found the first one. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a great looking set. It has the extra element of extra nice element and touch being a McDonald's product. Personally, I love collaborations and stuff, and having Panini collaborating with McDonald's to create a set that is only distributed with Happy Meals just shows, first of all, the rarity of this set, because how many McDonald's Happy Meals were sold within the set time frame for this set to have many copies. And secondly, how many kids didn't just take the stickers from the Happy Meal and stick them on their beds or the actual sticker book, or even just on some random places at the time. Nobody cared about stickers and cards back then and value. So yeah, this is an item that I think is a nice one, let's say.
Yeah, and like you say, there'll probably be a reasonably large amount of attrition on those sorts of sets. If you one, they may even just be thrown away anyway. And then, like you say, I remember my mum actually getting really upset with me for sticking quite a few spare Merlin Premier 96 stickers on my bedroom door at home. And she watches Desert Island Slabs, so she may remember that. She got absolutely furious with me for sticking like it was like Tony Yeboah and like Nicky Butt and all these ones just on my bedroom door at home. And she got furious with me. So yeah, probably lots of French children did the same with the Benzema.
Indeed.
And their mums probably got quite upset with them in the same way. And yeah, like you say, in terms of obviously a lot of it is collecting for ourselves, but that act of service element is quite powerful as well. I find you feel like you've contributed something to the community, that even if you don't necessarily have a huge affinity with Benzema, but some people do, and then they're like, oh, now I've got something that is really powerful to me to collect as a personal collector of Karim Benzema. And you've given them that item, you've given them that chance to collect that, and that's really a really special thing, I think, and I can completely see why you've included it.
Yeah, I mean, an example is, for example, a collector called, I think, Nils 1010, who has a brilliant collection of French players, Zidane, Henry, whatnot. He focuses a lot on French players, and I remember him replying to me in the Discord. He was thanking me basically for showing him something that he is really interested in, and he likes this, again, collaborations as such, for example, and these peculiar stickers, etc. And he was able to fetch one down the line, and he found one to include in his collection.
Yeah, Yeah, and I like the collaborations often tend to have quite interesting backs as well and things. Like the one we obviously think about, one quite obvious to me, being a Beckham lover, is the Shreddies back, and it's quite they just tend to look quite bold, and they look quite cool. I think they just tend to look good.
And rare. I mean, rarity. At least in my collecting, I think rarity is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor that I like to focus on, right? And if they have at least a bit of meaning, the more rare they are, it just enhances that meaning. And likewise, the Shreddies, for example, is much rarer to the normal Beckham rookie sticker, and I can understand why people will really prefer and want more the Shreddies one than the normal one. Likewise, I will understand why people would prefer this rookie to the Panini food one, because of this rarity factor, which is not present in the other rookie sticker. And yeah.
And then that's actually a perfect opportunity to move on to your next item, which we're going back quite a few years to non-football at all, and an item that I think is quite rare from what I do know, the little I do know, and I'm interested to learn more about this item because it's a real global announcement of a phenomenal thing. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about? I think you're talking about
the Euro.
Yep, the Eurovision 1977.
Yes.
Right?
This is your order, Andreas.
Yeah, I forgot my order. That's why it might.
It's fine.
Yeah, so you're talking about this ticket here.
Yes.
This is a ticket to the Eurovision of 1997, when 1974. My bad. When Abba would win the competition, the Eurovision competition contest, and with their song Waterloo. And basically, it was the beginning of their stardom and their, let's say, global international career that they went on to have. And yeah, this is, again, one of my best tickets. And it's, let's say, a non-football ticket, a non-soccer ticket, which I tend to focus on. But it's a ticket that I knew I had to have when I was appeared with the chance to get one. And although I'm not the biggest fan of Eurovision, they tended to have some great artists performing in their beginning stages of their careers, whether that was Abba, which they played in 1974 and won the competition, whether that was Celine Dion, who won the competition in 1988, or more recently, let's mention Maneskin, who won in 2021. I'm not sure when they won.
2021, yeah, 2021.
They look like they are a band which will have a good career, and definitely they are filling up the stadiums since winning that Eurovision contest with their song. And I mean, it's and talking about rarity again, this took place in Brighton at the Dome, which my research, and it's not conclusive, but from what I found out, during the time Brighton, the Dome was hosting around 2,000 basically attendees, and I don't know whether that number would decrease because of the contestants being there, or whether they had contestants as they do now close to the stage. But if the 2K attendance is the maximum, let's say, of attendance that could have that the venue could have had, I think this is a super rare item for such nice event and moment in let's say song history, because Abba and their career transcends outside even outside the realm of let's say just being a band. It's a way of life. I think in many fans of their band, and there are so many fans of Abba who are super fans, and their songs are still being played, still relevant. Keep listening to their songs, and they're just unique songs, which whenever you listen to them, they are always relevant.
Yeah, yeah, I like Abba. I don't know all the deep cuts and things, but you end up knowing loads of Abba songs because they're just so ubiquitous, and they're so good as well. An ABBA song is so rich; it's like this wall of noise, but there's loads of different elements going on in the song, and it's just they're so catchy as well. And there's such a huge band, and like you said, I think we've said a bit about on Desert Island Slabs in terms of there's something really like attractive about that thing that becomes a global phenomenon on the precipice of success, like the thing that announced them, and it's a really cool thing to have. Really, it's just a really cool item to have. And was it something you'd been specifically looking for, or was it just appeared and then you did the research when it appeared and you're like, oh, that's amazing? Or what happened with your acquisition of it?
Again, it was an eBay find. However, it still was, let's say, not that easy to acquire it, because the seller was, let's say, doing some, let's say, had some dodgy behavior, let's say, in terms of selling this ticket. He would set it up as an auction at first. Then he would take it down. Then he would bring it up again, take it down, and then basically was saying I will let it run on eBay, but he would still take it down. And I wasn't sure whether he sold it or not to somebody else after he told me he's gonna let it run. But at the end, for some reason, he took it out and he set up a fixed price on eBay, which, although it was one of the most expensive tickets I bought, I thought that the price was justifying the ticket. And that's why I pulled the trigger immediately after I saw it being uploaded again on eBay. And yeah, I mean, it's only the second copy I've seen until now. Both were listed on eBay. This was the first one. But yeah, this I think is in terms of rarity, it has all the elements I'm looking at ticket: rarity, importance, and basically relevance. And yeah, I mean, even though it doesn't look as attractive as I would want it to look, it still is a conversation starter. Is something that everyone can understand what it is, and I think it's a great piece.
Yeah, I agree. It's an amazing item, and like you say, with sort of paying a bit more for items and things, it's something which you develop a feel for as well. The more you're in anything that you can sort of identify a little bit if that's something you're willing to go to, and that's not even a skill. Well, it is a skill. It's a skill that comes with time. And in terms of this is what I would go to, because I think that is comparatively of a good price. And yeah, it's an amazing item. And I think it looks aesthetically quite nice. Actually, I think it's quite minimal. Yeah, I like it. It's nice. it's nice. I mean, it's just like it's a simple ticket. It reminds me of sort of those old English type tickets you sometimes see of football clubs with the same basically fonts, and it's just a nice ticket. And
let me make a disclaimer that if anybody tries to search it up on eBay after you see this podcast, that Abba, after releasing a specific album down the line, they reproduced this ticket with a specific seat, basically row number. It's not this one. This is a legit original ticket, but reproductions of this ticket with the same row number can be found on eBay because they were included as a memorabilia piece, a production memorabilia piece in an official release of the band years later as an extra, let's say, memorabilia piece in their album or something. So be careful out there. Don't think that you found a deal or you found a great ticket just by searching it up. That's one of the things you have to be aware of.
And that shows you, though, that shows you how much the band and their branding think that is a cool item for them to include that as a commemorative piece to put that in. And I think, if people want to go and, like you say, as long as they're not paying a huge premium, they may want to go and get that item.
Of course. Cool. I'm just talking about those people that want the original one, the one that was present and created in 1974 for a viewer to go and watch the Eurovision.
Yeah, it's an amazing ticket, and I'm so glad we've seen it on Desert Island Slabs. With your next item, it's more of a set, actually, isn't it? And it's something that's quite close to your heart with your team, your local team that you support. So,
indeed,
shall we have a chat about the next item, or items, or sets?
Yeah. So my next item, let me try and grab this, is basically I think you will include a photo of a glimpse, showing a glimpse of this collection, but all these tickets, and definitely have to find a better way to preserve them and protect them, is a set that I'm working on, which is basically the European tickets, tickets from the European matches that my local team, APOEL Nicosia, played in. Basically, it's around, let me say, it's until now, APOEL played 232 European matches, and at the moment I have around 152 around that, which is around 65.5% of the whole, let's say, list that I'm looking for. And this goes more to, this was mainly the traditional, let's say, collecting of tickets. More recently, a new way of collecting tickets took place. You have the traditional way of collecting, which is most people would try and collect the European matches and even league matches and everything from their local team that they support, or maybe the World Cups, the whole run of World Cups, Euro Cups, and Champions League finals and whatnot. And you have the more modern way of collecting, which is the debuts of players, various moments, whether that is a Kung Fu kick of Cantona or, let's say, let me have another one, this one maybe, which is Chris Kamara's I Don't Know, Jeff. Random Premier League.
I'd love one of those. I haven't got one yet.
But yeah, that's type of collecting which wasn't, if not at all, so let's say, common back in the day until recently. Is there a correct way of collecting? No. Can you do both? I think I am a collector from both worlds. I do this collecting all the matches from my local club, European matches, and both also doing also the moments and debuts thing, which I also find really interesting as a football fan, first and foremost. And this is having a ticket project and having a goal in collecting. I think it's super important because it keeps you, you know what you have to collect, you know the certain number of things that you are going after, and you are not all over the place. You know what you are going after. You tend to know what is rare, what is not, and you try to build a set to keep you busy, to keep you interested in this hobby, to keep you invested in this hobby, and keep you going. You tend to get a ticket here or there every now and then, and it makes you happy. And that's what this set does to me, is makes me have a connection maybe with my local team, which I don't tend to see very often now that I live in the UK. And I get to see when I'm back here, especially during the summer when they play during the qualifying rounds of the European competitions, or a random league game here or there when I'm here during Christmas or Easter time. And yeah, I mean, it's a way to engage with your local club indirectly, and I really love that.
Yeah, it's and something which I enjoy as well is set collecting, and it's more like making your own semi. It's gonna be really good for the next item as well, but it's that bespoke almost way of set. I prefer the bespoke set collecting where you make your own sets from pre-prescribed things, but you like make your own sets. And I think I said the same in the Fav episode, is that I think a lot of tick is that again like the rarity thing, but then another thing we like is like a checklist mentality sometimes, like you say, it keeps focus, but it's also really quite therapeutic to work through something. And there are some sort of sets and things we've spoken about that we had great joy in completing and still in the process of completing some. And
Indeed.
for you as well with the APOEL one, to have that already natural, innate personal affinity to APOEL and then have the opportunity to collect as well, it must be really quite rewarding, actually.
Yeah, indeed. And since we talked earlier about the Euro 2004 in Leicester, which were some incredible achievements achieved by both parties, let me throw in there and do a shout out to the APOEL team of 2011-12, which they reached the last 8 of the Champions League. Something which, if it happened today, it would have been a crazy achievement. But at the time, social media wasn't that, let's say, although it was up and running, it wasn't so, the echo chamber and the, let's say, the media wasn't that, wasn't picking stories that hard, let's say. And APOEL managed to, and this is almost all of the tickets from the run that APOEL did during 2011-12. And we managed to draw, first of all, managed to get into the Champions League group stages for the second time in our history. And we were lucky enough, let's say, to draw Porto, Zenit, and Shakhtar Donetsk. And what APOEL managed to do is come first in our group stage, which was something amazing and out of the realm of, let's say, believing and thinking that it was possible. And we managed to draw Lyon in the knockout stages. And I have to mention that Lyon at that point, it was coming out of the group stages with a very controversial game, if I'm not mistaken, with that Ajax game, when they had to score 6-7 goals to go through on aggregate score, or not aggregate score, but through goal difference. And somehow they managed to score against Ajax so many goals, which many people thought it was a fixed game to let them through. And we managed to beat them on penalties in Nicosia, one of the best matches I ever attended in terms of atmosphere. And
so you were there during the penalties and everything. I was going to
yes, indeed. I was 15 years old at the time, so I got to go to all the games, and I even did my first Euro trip, let's say, to watch APOEL abroad, which was in Lyon. And at the time, a very unknown young player scored against us in the first leg, who went on to do some very nice things in football. It was Alexander Lacazette. It was the beginning stages of his career. He made his debut in 2010, I think, but 2011-12 was his second year he started playing a bit more, but nobody really knew him. But you could tell that he was going to become a good player. He was very active and he was very, very good, although thanks to him for missing one of the crucial penalties in the return leg. Him and Michel Bastos, another good player that Lyon used to have, which let us pass to the next round. And unfortunately, we drew Real Madrid. If you could have asked anybody at that point, after we went to the last 8, we would have told you that we have good chances of going to the last 4. There were some teams that I think it was Benfica and Marseille were in the draw at the time.
Some very weak teams as well. Some very weak teams like Chelsea in there.
Yes,
the great underdogs.
I personally wanted to draw Chelsea. I thought, although they won the competition that year, I thought that which it wasn't. Chelsea was very bad this year. Let's say that, because they had, I think, André Villas-Boas. It was their coach, and they fired him. They brought Roberto Di Matteo in to bail them out, kind of. They were having a very bad year in terms of Premier League, and they managed to. But I thought we had a chance against Chelsea because they were playing very, let's say, conservatively, and that's how APOEL played. We were not going to go and dominate the game, right? We'll wait for our chances, try and do a counter-attack, play to our strengths. And maybe Chelsea would have gone on the offensive, and maybe we would have, let's say, punished them for doing so.
Chelsea's, that year. I mean, I always... It's amazing that Chelsea won it. I do like to wind up my Chelsea fan friends by saying that Champions League trophy should have an asterisk next to Chelsea for how pathetic their performances were on their way to the trophy.
Indeed.
That match again in Stamford Bridge against Barcelona, when Drogba spent about 65 minutes rolling around on the floor. It was just like...
I mean... It was to everybody's surprise, I think, that Chelsea managed to win that Champions League. But and we wouldn't have imagined that after we lost to Real Madrid in the last 8, which was, I think, the most difficult of draws we could have got. Everybody thought, okay, that's our run coming to an end at the time, playing against the, let's say, prime Cristiano Ronaldo and a super team created by Real Madrid with Benzema, Kaká, Marcelo. Who else was there? They had Pepe, Casillas, who until then he was still held up to a very high status, and I mean it was a dream playing with Real Madrid, but there wasn't much we could do against them.
No, yeah, I mean, but making the quarterfinals is an insane achievement, and like you say, now it would be far more lauded now than it was then. And I remember at the time, but it was always just a bit of a quirk and a bit of a footnote. But people would say, "Oh, APOEL made it to the quarterfinals," without really, it wasn't all this sort of Fabrizio Romano type thing or 4-3-3, like really posting on Instagram all the time, being like Cypriot team to the quarters of the Champions League. But it's an amazing achievement, and what better way for you to pay homage to that than have all the tickets for those items and things? And that's really cool.
Yeah, indeed. As you said, it was made much more difficult now for small teams to qualify to the Champions League specifically. And of course, let's say the truth, UEFA doesn't want small teams to play in the Champions League, because if small teams play in the Champions League, it means less revenue from TV rights, less revenue from branding rights, and they want the big teams. They want the Arsenals, who are not. It's the first time, for example, after so many years that they are playing in the Champions League. They want the all these big teams that because their leagues are difficult, and now after the competition became so fierce, it's difficult for them to qualify for the Champions League. They made it even more difficult for the small teams to qualify. So only a handful of teams can now qualify to the competition and to the group stages. And as you know, from next year, it's going to become even more difficult, if I'm not mistaken, with the coefficients, the two teams qualifying based on the coefficient, which happened, let's say the truth, after kind of the big league teams blackmailed UEFA with the Super League thing, and making their stance on being able to play in these competitions let's say prerequisite for them to engage in any sort of conversation for staying in the UEFA competitions. So being able to have had a run to the last stage, and not even that long ago, is definitely a key moment in our history. But I think it's something that that UEFA has to also look back to see what it means to these small teams and to being an underdog to reach this type of achievements, which should not be let's say forgotten, because it's the nature of football many times to want the underdog to do well and to show something that is not common every year, because sometimes football gets boring and you want the Leicesters, you want the Greece of 2004, you want the APOEL of 2011-12 to come, or the more recently Bayern Leverkusen of 2023-24 to do what they do, to keep football interesting and to keep football fans in love with the beautiful game and what made them fall in love with football in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you've said. And the next item, or again set, that we're going to discuss is without a doubt what made me fall in love with football in the first place. The whole sort of that competition, as you probably know, Andreas, to be honest. But I'm really looking forward to discussing this next set and this next project you've been working on, because it really is something quite astounding. So should we have a bit of a chat about that?
Yes, sure. So I think you're talking about my, let's say...
Can I say to the... I'm going to say to the viewers, this is Andreas's order, and he has not
No, I know
remembered.
the order now.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I have it ready. I'm preparing it. You're talking about let's call it the Premier League Hall of Fame collection, and it's basically a collection, a set that I'm building, which is the debuts of players in the Premier League that are either inducted already in the Premier League Hall of Fame, or are going to be inducted down the line based on filling the criteria that the Premier League set up for them to be able to be eligible for selection. And if I may show some, for example, here you have Aguero, who is already in the list of Hall of Famers. You have here is David Silva and Yaya Toure being signed by Yaya Toure. You have Kane here, which although you have to retire to be eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, we all know he will someday join the Hall of Fame. And you have Kevin De Bruyne, of course, Chelsea against Hull, 2013-14. Azpilicueta, I think he has a good shout to join. You have here Patrice Evra against Man City. You have
disastrous debut. A disastrous
indeed,
debut
but,
for Pat.
But he redeemed himself in the years to come.
An absolute
legend. Steven Gerrard, and you have even less known players. I mean, this is Kevin Phillips, who went on to be either he was a top scorer of the Premier League or the Player of the Year. Either of the two, I don't remember.
He actually he didn't win Player of the Year that year. It was Roy Keane. But
he was top scorer, right?
He won the European Golden Shoe that year, so he went one better and actually won the goal. He scored 30 goals, I think, or 31 in the Premier League that season, which is an insane achievement for Sunderland. Incredible achievement.
Yeah, and I don't know how big of a shout he has to join the Hall of Fame. The only way he's joining that Hall of Fame is based on that year and that run, which I think is still, if you're a top scorer, I think that's one of the criteria. Yeah. That's one of the basically ways to get into the Hall of Fame. And because of that, I'm trying to build a set in case any of those people join the Hall of Fame at one point, even in 20 years, 30 years, I don't know when. Since there are 6 players only join, and not only players nowadays, because out of, in my surprise, they inducted managers last year as well with Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson. You don't know in how many years some players are going to be inducted, but I'm trying to prepare. I'm trying to work on these sets to have them. So let's think of any other memorable, let's say, nice, let's say, players to give a shout. So this is Andy Cole's. This is one of the rare ones. I spent quite some time to try and find Andy Cole. You have maybe this is Ashley Young's. I think he has a good, let's say, maybe he has a good, let's say, chance of going into that Hall of Fame. And of course, Mo Salah here, Chelsea against Newcastle. And let's see, Eden Hazard, another one.
Yeah.
Here you have, who is that? Let me remind myself. Yeah, I don't remember.
What's the match?
All of them.
What's the match there?
It's West Ham Leeds. 1994. I have an Excel tracker to keep track of them, but sometimes I I also forget who made the
Yeah, no, it's
Premier
difficult.
League.
West Ham
Let me
Leeds,
find
94.
out right away. West Ham Leeds. Okay, that was the Premier League debut of Harry Redknapp as a coach.
Right.
Yeah. I think in terms of managers, after I saw that Wenger and Sir Alex are inducted, I thought, shit, I have to go and find managers as well now.
Yeah.
And Harry Redknapp, I think, is one of the managers that I think he will be inducted at some point if they're going to indict any managers. Yeah. So I went out to find his
Klopp and Pep first.
Klopp definitely.
Pep's a difficult ticket. I haven't seen a Sunderland. I haven't even seen a Sunderland 2016.
Yeah, me neither. But it's some things that I will try and get hold of at some point. But you have also maybe Roy Hodgson recently. He retired. He is gonna get, I think, the induction at some point. I don't know if it's gonna be this year or maybe down the line. Anyway, you have to be voted. If you are not one of the two players that are automatically inducted by the Hall of Fame board, for people that don't know, you have to be voted after a short list of players and managers is selected every year. And so, although politics is not that big of a deal in this thing in football, it still has something to say, because the more the bigger the fan base is, or the more lovable a player is, the easier it is to be inducted into the the Premier League Hall of Fame. And maybe Andy Cole, who has one of the strongest CVs, let's say, in goal scoring and achievements in Premier League, is one of the players that I find it quite difficult for him to enter ahead of other names, because maybe he doesn't have a strong following of fans for him to get the backing he needs for him to join the Hall of Fame. And so, before we close this topic, let's say you have here maybe Vardy, Premier League legend, by one that you definitely like as well.
Yeah, I love Vardy.
Heung-min Son.
Yes.
You have someone that isn't that loved, let's say, Emil Heskey.
I love Emil Heskey.
Although he's part of the Premier League 100 club as well. But he gets a lot of beating sometimes from football fans.
Yeah.
But you have Bale, Mark Noble. He has a shout, I think, from being loyal to a club and having so much appearances in Premier League. Let's see if any other super relevant ones. Bruno, I think he has a good shout. And this one is a nice one. This is Wayne Rooney's full. It's the debut, but it's a full.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's nice.
And another one I want to show, which I really like and I recently got, other than the Rio Ferdinand Premier League and West Ham Pro debut, is let's give a shout out to Michael Carrick. I want to give a shout out to him. It's a ticket that I've seen it only once. It's Bradford City West Ham. That's another one that I've spent quite some time trying to get. And I mean, I have quite a big collection to date. I've started collecting it since the Premier League announced that they're gonna have a Hall of Fame, that's when I got the idea that I would like to start a set. Maybe I got also kind of inspired by our American collectors who tend to collect maybe the MLB Hall of Famers debuts, which is much more difficult than this set. But still, I find it quite interesting. I like it. It keeps me busy. It's to an extent pretty cheap to try and collect all this. And I have around maybe 70, 80, 90 already acquired out of, I don't know, until now they inducted in the Hall of Fame 21 people, and out of these 21 I have 19. So I'm not fully up to date until now. I'm missing 2 from the current.
Who are you missing at the moment?
I'm missing Thierry Henry, which although it's not difficult to find, sometimes he's quite wanted ticket because of his Arsenal fan base. And it's quite a desirable ticket to those fans and generally to football fans. And I'm also missing the Wenger one, which I didn't think I would need. But as it turns out, I need to find the Wenger 1996 against Blackburn Rovers away. Away at Blackburn 1996. To be up to date. But I think I'm quite well set up for the future.
Oh, definitely.
For the future selection. It's gonna make me happy if they select 6 out of 6 of players that have their debuts. And the most recent ticket I found was actually Luis Suarez yesterday with Liverpool. Being a top scorer, I think, and having some great years with Liverpool, I think he's going to be one after his career ends that is going to be selected. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the next selection. Actually, I feel bad that it's every once a year. But, I mean, to have this type of things, I think it takes time and it gives more value to the whole concept when you do it every now and then and not so often.
Yeah, it's an amazing project, and collecting anything Premier League is always going to get a big thumbs up from me, and seeing different people collecting different things with the Premier League is
you are the biggest Premier League aficionado I know. I think at least in ticket collecting and cards, stickers, I must say, but at least in tickets, you are definitely the biggest aficionado and maybe even the biggest connoisseur, let's say, of Premier League.
The silly Premier League, maybe. The silly and the stupid Premier League tickets. It's something that I've always had. Super big brand, super good brand. That's important thing to say. Everybody in the world wants to watch Premier League, and there's a reason for that. You tend to even if you just see the Fantasy Premier League, how much following that has, you can imagine how much following the actual football of the Premier League has, which is as a brand huge. It's crazy, and you don't even notice actually. But I worked abroad for a year, nearly a year in sort of sub-Saharan Africa, and like children in villages know Phil Jones and Chris Smalling. Like they know them, and it really astounded me actually, because how it enraptures people. Because like you say, I love Premier League because it captivated me more than anything else in the entire world at the age of 5. It was magical seeing that. It was so intoxicating, and it's just such a thing that's just, this is why with the tennis and things, and I love tennis, but I feel like with my job and things, I don't really have much time, because I always am watching Premier League. It's that's what I do a lot with my spare time. I'm watching Premier League.
And even you sometimes, because of Fantasy Premier League, you get even to watch the Burnley against Sheffield United just because. Just because.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was playing Fantasy Premier League for a very long time. Actually, the last 2 years I haven't played because I get quite addicted to things. I've got quite an addictive personality, and I think after a good 12 or 13 years of playing, I was like, I've spent enough time on this now. I think I need to. I'll probably be back once. I'll be back at some point, but I've just, you can't be spending time editing your team all the time and trying to moneyball it. So I just need a few years off.
Yeah.
But what a competition, and what a set. And I hope you manage to find the Arsene and the Thierry.
Eventually I will. It's a patience game you have to play sometimes.
You will. Blackburn away 96-97. I'm sure you'll find that those times. It's funny because Blackburn away 96-97. The Blackburn home tickets, rather, sorry, for the it actually has one of the most the Premier League ticket I want the most, actually, is Blackburn versus Middlesbrough 96-97, which is the match in which Middlesbrough had to forfeit because they all got the flu. I did a video on Middlesbrough, and that ticket is one that I've just, probably, if you asked me what Premier League ticket would I want the most out of ones I haven't got, it's actually the Blackburn. And also, interestingly, Blackburn 96-97, Zola made his debut against Blackburn away as well, I think. So there's three quite cool
indeed, I have that as well.
Yeah. There's like 3 quite cool Blackburn home fixtures from that season, which I always think is quite interesting. It's just an interesting quirk.
They are definitely out there. They are definitely out there. But sometimes, as you know, it takes time, and you have to stay patient.
It's more like they haven't necessarily been listed difficult. Because, again, like you mentioned with the Carrick, the Bradford away, the Bradford home tickets rather, because I've seen quite a few of the Scholes volleys, I presume that ticket must be those tickets must be out there, but they just haven't come to market quite. Because one that I actually got from that season very recently was Bradford versus Liverpool, when Bradford won and stayed up in what was, again, a really improbable escape on Survival Sunday, and that was a ticket I'd been looking for quite a long time, but had never seen appear. So I'm sure you'll get your 2 and complete the set. But I hope you don't have to do any work this year, and I hope your 6 you manage to get
for next year. Well, I mean, I'm always trying to work on that set. So even if I don't know if I will ever have a 100% completed record until the next year's comes up, but let's see. I mean, there are some big names that haven't yet been selected. Let's mention, for example, John Terry, Ashley Cole. Of course, I think this year maybe he will even be selected by the board. But like Ryan Giggs hasn't even been mentioned yet, which for someone who has won 13 Premier Leagues and has so many achievements, I think the reason for not being selected is more political than football, maybe because of his court cases that are pending and going on.
I think that's the reason.
I don't want to. Yeah, which is it's a shame. It's a shame because having the most number of Premier League titles is definitely one of the, let's say, best achievements. But then you have other players like Sol Campbell not yet been in. You have so many: Van der Sar, Robbie Keane, Carrick, even. Yeah. Yeah, I think the next selection should include players that have their tickets. Let's see.
Yeah, and we could talk about Premier League all day. I plan on doing this channel for years, and that's going to be mostly what I talk about. So, you know, but your last item, we're going back to music, and we're going away from football, and we're going to a very
Mm-hmm.
personal story. We're going to a very personal story for you. So, should we have a little chat about that to round things off?
Sure. Let me just say that this item was not included in my first draft of items, but after watching your last episode with Champ, I decided to switch one of my items. After listening to his story with the Colombian national team visiting his restaurant, and talking so fondly about his experience, it made me think that I should probably include an item connected to a very very nice and very interesting story that happened to me back in the day. And the item is basically, which will basically, it's more the story than the item, but the item is a signed postcard of the band Scorpions and a guitar pick Scorpions branded, which they gave to me when I met them. So basically, when I was 8 years old, I think, I was coming back from holidays from Thessaloniki in Greece. And when we were waiting to be boarded on the airplane, my father told me that he heard, because he was until now he was working as an aircraft engineer. He told me that he heard that Scorpions are going to fly with us, and they were going to go from Salonika, which they held a concert the day before. They were going to fly to Cyprus to hold a concert there in the next couple of days. And one of the perks that my father had working as an aircraft engineer for Cyprus Airways, which was the airlines that we were flying with at the time, was that once a year he could have a trip, a free trip for him and his family, flying business class. It happened that the trip that on the return of the trip, we would fly business class on the same flight that Scorpions were going to fly from Greece to Cyprus, and I ended up sitting between two of the band members, more notably James Kotak and Rudolf, the drummer and one of the guitarists of Scorpions. I didn't know who Scorpions were back then, right? I was 8 years old. I didn't know English, almost nothing at all. I could not even communicate with them. But I was sitting next to them, and they were making so much fun, especially of me, and they were engaging with me all the time throughout the flight, which was maybe 1.5 hours. They were talking to me, making fun. They were, for example, Rudolf was sitting directly next to me, and James Kodak, the drummer, was sitting aisle. I was sitting aisle, but he was sitting on the other side of the aisle. So for example, James Kodak would point at Rudolf, and he was talking to me. He was pointing at Rudolf, and he was telling me, crazy, just saying that Rudolf was crazy, etc., etc. We couldn't, unless we were talking with sign language, we couldn't communicate. But they were basically so friendly with us and my family. I had so much fun. I managed to get a dedicated postcard with their signatures. I even woke up one of the band members I woke him up. I wasn't very nice to him when I woke him up to have his signature. but we're having fun until we even in the shuttle, in the bus that takes you from the plane to the passport control, we were still climbing on the rails, how you call those, and we're pretending to be monkeys with them. It was so much fun. And they even they asked my father if we're going to attend the show that we're going to hold in Cyprus in a couple of days. And my father told him, no, he came up with basically a random excuse why we're not going to the show. And Scorpions were kind enough to invite us as guests, complimentary guests to the show. And they told us to give our names to their manager, who was flying with them, and go to the door and just say our names, and they would let us in. So come the show, we drove to Limassol, who is a city around 45 to 1 hour away from where I live, Nicosia, where I'm from. And we were not sure whether they're gonna be true to their word, we weren't sure whether they gave the names to the security guards for us to enter. So my father was like, okay, we're gonna go there. If they let us in, great. If not, we're just gonna head back home. And we went there. I remember I still have memories going there, telling the security guard our names, and I remember him going to the back, checking something. Maybe I don't know with who he checked something, and he came back and he just let us in. And it was the end of a great experience, meeting an iconic, I have to say that, an iconic old school band of classic rock, with so many great hits, important great hits. And we got to fly with them, and basically also inviting us to watch the show for free. They didn't have to do that. They just did it because they were super kind, and although they were superstars, they had time for their fans, and not even their fans. There's some random people they met on the plane, and they were super kind to an 8-year-old kid and my sister, who was 5 at the time, playing with us throughout the trip.
Yeah, and that's amazing, because sometimes, rock stars and things, especially bands like Scorpions, who are a huge band, sold like hundreds of millions of records and massive hits, like you say. But, sometimes that rock star type thing, there's that cliche of maybe them being a bit removed, a bit aloof, and thinking they're superstars. But for them to interact with an 8-year-old and 5-year-old with such joy and sort of love is just a really cool story. It's just and I'm so glad you included this item, this signed postcard, because it's such a it's almost like we said with the champ sort of thing, actually with another item, the Hakeem Olajuwon, about Hakeem Olajuwon sort of getting it. But Scorpions, they get it as well. They see, they just want to have a nice time, interact. Whether they were coming off some substances or something that made them happy, I'm not gonna say. I don't know.
I don't know. Especially at the time, I wouldn't know. Especially at the time, I was 8 years old. I had no idea.
Because you say, like, you were a kid, and that you're on the monkey bars like that, and maybe they're on the monkey bars for another reason. I'm not going to speculate. But
an 8-year-old kid didn't mind, didn't care.
It's a great story, and it's so nice that they invited you. And did you remember much of the concert itself? Like, where were you sitting or standing, or where did you see it from?
I think I remember listening to a concert. Obviously, I don't remember any specific songs or how it went in the concert. I have still memories from the sitting arrangement and going into the concert and then leaving it. But yeah, I mean, it was they came a couple of times to Cyprus, but just to give some also context, I think they're still performing to this day. I know last year they came again back to Cyprus after more than 10, 15 years of their last show, but their first album was in 1972. If you just think about Abba, we talked about later, they went to the Eurovision in 1974, but it's been so many years since they retired and stopped performing. Scorpions, their album was 1972, and they're still performing 50 something years later, right?
Yeah,
I think it's
such
52
longevity.
years later.
And they're not a band that I know particularly well. I know like Winds of Change, Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Yeah,
I think
Holidays. There are
still Loving You
Angel,
as well.
Still Loving You. Yeah, some great hits.
Some great songs. And they are often regarded as a very influential band on bands that like Metallica and Guns N' Roses quote them as a really influential band for them. And yeah, it's just such a wonderful story as well. And do you listen to Scorpions now? Do you still listen to them quite a lot?
A bit, not systematically. I'm getting into some mental loops at times. If I hear one song, if I listen to one song, I might play the next one, and for a couple of days or weeks, or a week, for example, I will keep playing Scorpion songs. But yeah, it's not something I do daily, but I do enjoy listening to Scorpions because it's their songs are definitely easygoing. It's not tiring to the ear, and you know, some songs like Wind of Change were also when they talked about the Berlin Wall going down. They have this type of let's say the meaning. The songs, many songs of theirs have meaning as well. It's not just nice songs, which makes it also interesting and good. And they are from Germany, who makes more, let's say, meaning. It gives more meaning to the Wind of Change song, for example.
Yeah, it's a wonderful song. It's a wonderful, wonderful song, and rightfully one of the most popular songs of. It's actually one of the most popular songs of all time, probably. Everyone knows it. It's weird because I don't think everyone knows Scorpions necessarily, but everyone knows that song.
And most likely, yeah.
Yeah, and Rock You Like a
Hurricane. I don't know how common.
Well.
I don't know how known they are, for example, in other parts of the world like USA, etc. But I think at least in Europe they have some important and huge following. At least back in the day, back when rock was flourishing.
I always think it's quite difficult with it being. This is going to sound ironically ABBA were, but I think they're a bit different with, say, UK and USA, because I think people like as a German band, I think it's people just, even though they sing in English a lot of the time, for some reason people just tend to go towards the English bands or English speaking bands as a first language. But Scorpions are still a huge band, and just such a wonderful way to round off your Desert Island Slabs journey, because we've seen an insight into baby Andreas, and it's been so much fun as well. I think your dog's been getting quite excited as well at various points. With your podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. That's fine.
My 18-year-old dog, I think, growing old, getting into this old age, she sees things that are not there, and she just barks. But yeah.
Yeah, my dog is currently outside at the moment, but maybe I will bring her on another episode at some point. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure interacting with you. We've spoken quite a bit sort of in text and things and tickets and things. So it's always so amazing to actually meet the people behind the collection properly and have a great chat with just these most inspiring collectors. And I've had so much fun. And are there any words that you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, it was great coming on and having a discussion about about my items and generally about things. I had a great time. I'm not gonna say let's do this again because I've already showed my items, maybe
That's
in a
it
different
now.
context, in a different type of, let's say, if you come up with a different idea other than the desert island, happy to come discuss things and talk about football and Premier League, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was definitely a way to not say connect with some of my stuff, but at least bring back some fond memories and some great memories I have from my childhood, which, as we say, not as we say, but you realize that as a child, you don't put any monetary value into things. You just put sentimental value. And growing up, it's a constant, maybe not war between the sentimental value and the monetary value, but if you think as a child thinks, it makes things much, much more easier and easier in terms of understanding things and enjoying things and don't having to stress over value, money, and monetary things basically, and just enjoying what you have and what you collect.
I agree. And I would also say that maybe you could tell yourself this the next time you miss out on a ticket, rather than having the 3 days, the 3 days of rage.
Maybe let's see the next time. Let's hope there isn't a next time, at least for some time.
Let's hope not. But Andreas, thank you so much for coming on Desert Island Slabs. It means the world to me for you to share your story, and I'm sure the viewers and listeners will very much enjoy hearing your journey. And I wish to extend a thank you to everyone that's listened to this episode of Desert Island Slabs. I hope you've had fun. We will be doing more in the future. Andreas, I'm going to have a chat with Andreas as well. I'm sure on the channel, not on Desert Island Slabs, but we can do a collaboration definitely to talk about things in a bit less of a structured way. Maybe just a live conversation and just see who else wants to dip in. Always something I'm happy to do, willing to do, and things I haven't done so far, but I'm really interested in doing. But for now, thank you so much for listening. And if you're a collector that wants to maybe appear on Desert Island Slabs, then message me on the Desert Island Slabs Instagram or the My Sports Compendium Instagram. But for now, from myself and Andreas, bye-bye.